transmissions detected.
Kill them all.
Fuck that port! There's people screaming there every night! I've heard it for myself! The city's trying to cover it up, trying to get everybody out of here because they know there's people in those fucking bins!
The goal is to grow a population as large as possible. Once the population exceeds the planet's ability to sustain it, it's considered ripe for harvest.
In your world, people are used to fighting for resources, like oil or minerals or land. But when you have access to the vastness of space, you realize there's only one resource worth fighting over. Even killing for. More time. Time is the single most precious commodity in the universe.
Do you know what this will do to people when they find out the truth?
I don't think that most people would want to know the truth.
I do.
Okay.
The latest example of international human trafficking, 35 people from the Indian subcontinent were found crammed in a shipping container that arrived in England. One of the victims was dead, while others are being treated in a hospital.
The difference between us is our knowledge and technology.
I live among the creatures of the night. I haven't got the will to try and fight against a new tomorrow, so I guess I'll just believe it that tomorrow never comes. I said night, I'm living in the forest of a dream. I know the night is not as it would seem. I must believe in something, so I'll make myself believe it. This night will never go.
Hello, my friends. There's an old saying that nothing's for free. And if that's true, then, well, what do you think that it would cost for ancient forbidden knowledge to be given to you? I can bet you wouldn't pay with money, jewels, and gold, that's for sure. And every year, the reason why I say that is millions of people go missing and they're never found, and the numbers suggest something very sinister is at work. And we know that human trafficking is a major industry all over the entire world, but have you ever wondered how did it get that bad? And how is it possible for them to be operating, considering how vast our military and how, in everyone's business our police is, actively searching for criminal behavior? I mean, they say they do. With all the training and the money that they get from us, don't they seem pretty useless? Maybe if you want to block traffic or drop some bombs on some innocent people, we need them. But other than that, yeah. When searching for answers, I realized we got some really good information last year from this whole UAP thing. We just forgot about it. Remember, they told us about advanced technology being reverse engineered. Everything was hidden from us, from the 0-point energy, the quantum flux, generators, whatever you want to call them. But the creepiest thing that they told us back then was that humans were using UAPs or UFOs to abduct humans from disaster areas. Remember Lahaina when they heard everyone on Front Street scream and then silence? Yeah, come on y'all. Where there's an earthquake, tsunami, or other event, you can bet the powers of the air are somewhere around. We keep getting them on film every single time. Now they transport drugs, guns, and humans inside these UAPs. Why do they do that? Well, because they can't be detected. They can't be caught. You can't shoot them down, So, a police helicopter or whatever, it's no match for it, right? That's why they use it. There's basically no way they can get caught if they do it that way. Now, this is a rogue element of the United States government. Let that sink in. That's the most threat to our entire world, than anything you could possibly think of. Nuclear weapons, chemical, biological, it doesn't matter. That's all child's play, compared to advanced technology. Remember, in theory, if the stories are accurate, they could turn everyone to stone if they wanted to. If they thought prison or the gallows was imminent for them, I feel like they'd pull something real shady off. Where do you think they're taking everything that's in those, what are they doing with their money? $800-something billion a year? What do you think they're doing? Filling up their stockpiles of ammo and, weapons and food and resources, right? Supplies. We're just letting them, kind of carry on. It's ridiculous. And I still think there's two key players, though. There is humans and someone or something else. What it is right now, I just don't know. Because it could be someone from the north, someone from the south, someone from a land that we don't know that's still around. Those old maps told us about a lot of places that wasn't too friendly with human beings. Now, the things alone that humans do is pretty wicked, right? Well, imagine what a benevolent being or someone that really hated humans would be doing to us. Yeah, from A to Z, it would be madness, Well, I couldn't break down the entirety of this scam without completely losing everyone, so I figured I'd do it a different way and let them tell you themselves in their own words what's really going on. Enjoy.
So in reality, the constitutional government of the United States has not been in a proper oversight and control of these operations since the late 1950s.
So we were positioned near the slope. It wasn't like a steep grade or anything, but it was enough to obscure what was going on the other side that we had no idea what was going on. So we got, naturally you want to take the high ground so you have observation of everything. And this is when we came across this operation. Having this happen on the north part of the slope and it goes down, and obviously, the way it was transitioning colors, which was kind of the way that it appealed because it was transitioning for a light matte black, a light matte gray to a dark matte black, and just kind of ranging in between, right?
Well, let's rewind a little bit before we get into the description.
Okay.
How far? So, what was the activity with all the other helicopters? Were they active at the time that you saw the
Honestly,
UAP?
When we started going down there, no.
Okay.
And I don't know because obviously we were occupied with this.
How far do you think it was?
So from the LZ where we were at was 300 meters roughly, okay, plus the slope that was concealing plus vegetation. Down the slope, it was like 400 meters maybe. So we got close. We trucked down quite a bit.
Okay.
About 150 meters outside, 150, 200, right? Halfway. And
so maybe about a click away.
Possibly, yeah.
At the
the
farthest.
craft itself might have been a click up.
Okay.
Yeah. And as like I said, the reason why I know how big this thing was because...
Did you see it as you crested the hill?
Yes, I did. And that's where I took videos and pictures of this thing. That's how I was able to see it because, taking pictures of the chaos going behind and everything. You're seeing the rubble, burning buildings, flooding and all that kind of stuff. And then you turn around and I'm like...
So you crest this hill.
Yep.
You look down into the valley.
Yep.
And there's a clearing.
There's a clearing.
With a UAP.
Yes.
Just sitting there.
Sitting there
hovering.
rotating clockwise, yep. And that's in transition this color spectrum I was telling you too. And that's why it's something that stuck out. It's not a building, It's not something that you're used to seeing. Maybe topside it could have looked like a building or something that, I don't know. I don't have that perspective. I wasn't a pilot or anything, but I can tell you from our point of view, it's something that it looked very unnatural and abnormal. And that's what got our curiosity to go investigate this. Now, normally because we would have had comms, you're damn right we'd have called it in. Report something suspicious. Maybe get some eyes on a helo, get a hold of their call signs and try to do them fly around, and they never did. And obviously we didn't have comms to do it, but they were more occupied with what was going on behind us. So when we trekked down and got around 150 to 200 meters from it, and this is an opening. By the way, there's no tactical advantage being in this situation because you don't have cover. It's jungle. You have concealment, but this kind of concealment with vegetation is not bulletproof.
Mm-hmm.
So when we trekked up close, and we were attack column, so obviously you have points here, right, at each Marine. So you have visuals of the sides, somebody has point, and somebody has the rear. And all of a sudden we're enveloped by this military force of, I still to this day don't know who they are. And
how close did you get?
To the craft?
To the craft.
Roughly 200 meters, 150, 200.
Did you get to the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
So you could see, so you saw the top of it, and then you could see underneath of it.
And underneath of it had this platform that was on the ground that was separate from this craft hovering. And it was very weird to see, and I was like, okay, I don't know if that's kind of like a cement pad or something. I don't know if it was like a helo pad or anything like that at first, but then started seeing how the material would kind of look very similar to what the craft was. It's like, well, that's separate. So you have something that's on the ground, stationary, and then you have something that's up top, and it's just rotating in a clockwise position. So right when we got close to it, at least 150, 200 meters out, then all of a sudden we were engaged, at least not in a hostile manner, at least, not gunfire or firefight or anything like that. But the way that these guys moved was so fluid, it was so still, it was very, very, very smooth. And it kind of indicated to me, after thinking about it for several years, is that these guys had done it for a while because of how smooth this operation was. So when we were in a tactical column going towards the center of this thing, they actually came from the flanks, but it was more of a diagonal, like a corner of the room, so to speak, right? For them, at a tactical advantage, they have interlocking fields of fire on every single person, and they had a team of 8, right? And the gear that they had was black OTV vests. They had black camouflage utilities.
What you're saying is there would have been no they were professionals.
Yes,
there would have been no Mexican standoff where if they fired, they're shooting into their other squad. They had perfect angles.
Yes, they did.
To where both sides could engage you.
Yes. Team of 4, team of 4. So it was like a fire team element.
Without worrying about a blue-on-blue situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, your attention to detail, when you're seeing this kind of stuff, your senses are very heightened, so you can pick up. I know you being a combat veteran, you know all about that. Your heightened sense of awareness is going through astronomical changes.
Hypervigilant.
Yes. So you can hear stuff a lot clearer. And that's when you kind of picked up the hum that this object was doing along with these guys flipping their safeties off, especially M4s. It's very distinct sound. Anybody in this room who's held M4s and has shot them, M16s, things like that, it's very distinct sound to flipping it off. So we kind of knew, and they started yelling at us. They were like, you're not supposed to fucking be here. What the fuck are you guys doing here? Who the fuck are you with? So they knew. They were using the kind of lingo that we were using too, especially in the military. So it made me think that at some point these guys actually were uniformed military at one point.
Any accents?
Not accents. It's just like American dialects, how you and I were talking. At one point they said they were going to smoke us. They could throw us out of a helicopter. It's very easy to get lost in the jungle out here. They kept saying stuff like that. So after they enveloped us, they all pretty much got in line. They told us to put our weapons, so we all got in line as well. And we had our hands up. We had our weapons slung. And they're having 2 guys watch while there's a guy basically taking our magazines out of our vest. And they're throwing them on the deck and they're kicking them away so we don't have time to react. They also, at the same time, the first thing they did was obviously take our weapon and clear it. But they took the magazine out and they actually held it in a way to where they could pull a charging handle and collect the round and have it not hit the deck. So the way that these guys operated was very smooth. It's very calculated, very precise. You could tell they've done this a lot, and they've rehearsed it a lot. As they did that, they actually... each Marine had 2 guys on them, plus one that was taking the stuff off of them. They actually knew where our military IDs were because in Marine Corps order, you have to have them in your left breast pocket.
So there were 15 of these guys, 3 on each Marine.
No. So they had other guys right here, and they had 3 that were just going through each Marine,
okay.
While other people were holding each Marine at gunpoint. And they're not like super close to us range-wise with, because if you get a muzzle close, it's easy to grab it and, kind of fend off, especially with a rifle. But these guys were off at a standoff distance that even if you try to move, they could smoke you.
One search team of 3 guys.
Yes.
And then the rest of the squad was aimed in on you. Okay.
Yeah. So, and again, they're not anywhere where they could actually, there was people behind us because obviously if they had to engage, they're going to hit one of their own guys probably. So it was more like they were kind of moving the same way through all of us, all 6 of us, taking our stuff, taking pictures of our military IDs, So they had like these devices that kind of look like a very thin, it looked like a smartphone modern day right now, because in 2009 it wasn't the case. I think the most high-tech thing they had at that time were maybe Blackberries, but they're bulky at that point with the ball, and then they had their flip phone razors and things like that. But these look like something you'd see today. And they were taking pictures of military IDs, and they had some other device that was like reminded me of a BAT system. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Describe it.
It's like a biometrics tracking system. So what it does is when you come across with an insurgent, you can take pictures of their face, their retinas, fingerprints, something like that. But they were trying to scan our IDs with this thing, and it wasn't working. So they're kind of getting frustrated with it. So as this is going on,
did they collect biometrics from you?
No.
Okay.
No. Which they took pictures of us. but that may be enough. And then they took our IDs, you know, because some people I talked to that are in the special operations community with that, they said, yeah, we have the ability to scan IDs and it tells us everything about you. Military IDs, driver license, things like that. So it's very high speed stuff. I mean, and considering this was in 2009 compared to now, I mean, of course, they had this thing that they were using to load up stuff. It's very advanced physics, you know, something hovering off the ground, not making any sound, but an audible hum, like a guitar amp or something that's like a transformer.
So it wasn't like, it didn't sound like a jet.
No.
It didn't sound like a helicopter.
Hell no.
There was no engine noise.
Nope.
Just a hum.
Just an audible hum. It's very creepy to see because it's not normal.
Was it like a bassy hum?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Like a guitar. Like if you were to unplug it, I mean, it wasn't the same pitch, but it was like the same kind of sound, same kind of noise that it emitted.
But we get down, the doors open, and the first thing I see are these personnel connexes off to my right, the smaller ones, not the larger ones that you see scattered around, or like the ones you'd see on a big rig carrying around. These were the small ones you would throw your personal gear in to go before you get shipped overseas. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I looked past them, I could see this giant monolithic slab just sitting there. At first, it didn't, once again, it didn't set off any alarms. I didn't think much of it, but the closer we got to it, I could feel this intense vibration. But you couldn't hear anything. It was dead silent in there. The loudest thing was the footsteps that I could hear. And
what did the vibration feel like?
It felt like being at a concert, standing next to one of the speakers, and
without
the bass
the noise
just permeating through your body without the noise.
There was zero noise.
Zero.
Just vibration.
Absolute zero. I could still hear myself breathing over this, but inside, it was such a strange feeling to have. So the closer I got, I was like, well, I got to check this out. So I go down to one knee, faking I got to tie my boots, and then I glance up underneath it, and there's absolutely nothing underneath this damn thing. Nothing holding it up whatsoever.
What did the slab look like?
It just looked like a granite slab, but the sheen on it is what caught my attention the most. It was kind of in between being polished or just completely translucent. There was something behind it, but you could tell it had a smooth surface to us. And the only lights that were on in that hangar that we were in were directly over our head where we were walking through that walkway. And
how big was the slab?
Oh, God. It was about 20 foot long. It was about 7 foot tall, and I couldn't tell how wide it was. By that point, I was already directly in front of it.
So there's like, it would be impossible for a human to even think about picking something like this up.
Oh, there's no way.
Okay.
Even with the construction that we've done, if you had to pick up something like that to move it anywhere, you would need at least 3-4 cranes.
Oh, wow.
Herrera could tell you better.
Okay.
The scope of equipment that it would take just to get it off the ground, not even to transport it to another location. But at this point, I'm still down on my knee, and I'm looking, and behind it, I can see 2 people standing. The only thing I can see is their feet, but there's this boulder directly behind it, and it's on the ground. And I glance over my shoulder, and there's a guy with his back turned to me standing in front of another boulder identical of the other one that I could see up underneath the monolithic slab, and he's just pushing it with one hand. And then I assume he's pushing it in the other direction because it's just freely spinning, no wobble. It's like it was attached to the top and the bottom, and it was paper mache. That's how easily this guy was just spinning it around. Wow. And at this point, the escort behind me kicks me in the back, says, "Let's go." So we get up, keep going, go down a flight of stairs. That's when we get to what we call the shoot house. You could see old lanes where they had actually used it before as a live fire range underground. And we'd probably only been down there 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes maybe. Father was taking notes on the dimensions, what we needed, what I guess he understood what they wanted. And I know that we had to replace the walls. It's inconsequential to the story, but we had to replace the rubber on the walls for the shoot house. And in that amount of time, we go back upstairs, exact same route that we took on the way down, and everything's empty when we get to the hangar again. Everything, the 2 boulders in the back, the monolithic slab, all of it is absolutely gone. And we weren't, 100 yards below these guys. We were just 1 flight below them. So whatever it was that they were taking out, we would have heard it. Even the people making noise around it, you would have still been able to hear. But it was dead silent. Like I said before, there was nothing in there. Just our feet. But coming back through, it was absolutely gone.
Did you feel it before you saw it?
No. Whenever when the doors of the freight elevator opened and I looked down, I could see it.
Okay.
It was no farther than from here to that camera pod. 6-7 feet away from me whenever we were walking in. But what made me stop...
It was that close.
Right. What made me stop was as close as we got. I noticed that in front of me with my dad and the other escort in front of him, it was almost like hopping a tripwire. When you're on the trail, you just get it and go. And that was the first thing I noticed. And then the closer I got to it, that intense vibration, and I was just... too curious.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it. I had to figure out what it was. And I really shouldn't have.
When did the vibration stop?
It didn't stop until I walked away.
Okay.
In the center, looking at the top of it, you could see this black box. I've tried to describe it before, and it was extremely difficult. It just looked like a small black GMTK toolbox that a military mechanic would have or carry around. It wasn't very big, and it just had 2 leads that came off of it. And it looked like it was wrapped in a casing that you could almost see something inside of it, but it wasn't mechanical. It wasn't moving. It didn't have lights. It was just opaque. But it didn't really seem to serve any purpose. But the other boulder had the same thing on top of it. But
so hold on, I'm sorry. Are you saying you saw 2 boulders and a slab?
Yeah.
And they were all 3 of them at the same time?
The slab itself, the monolithic slab, it was about 12 to 15 inches off the ground.
Okay.
And whenever I knelt down to tie my shoes, I could look through it, and I saw the first boulder that I noticed, and it was just sitting on the ground.
Okay.
And then I glanced back, and that's when I saw the other boulder that had the same black box on top that was being moved around.
And that was levitating?
Yes. So
1 boulder levitating, 1 slab levitating, 1 boulder on the ground.
Correct.
Okay. Did the slab have a black box anywhere near it?
The monolithic slab? Yeah. It did.
It did? Where was that located?
It was on the top near the center where I was feeling most of the vibration. It was like the closer I got to it, that's where it was the most intense, at the center of the slab, where that box was on top of it.
And so as they're searching us, we're watching this thing happen. And that's when we started seeing trucks come from our left and go onto this platform. And they were up-armored 350s. I know exactly what 350s are. They were kind of beefier trucks. They were matte black. When they were coming at us, and they go left. And I was glancing between what was going on in front of us with these guys, and then all of a sudden glancing over to what was going on behind them. And that's when I started seeing the key details of this thing. Like it had like a scale pattern on it, kind of like an octagonal, because the craft itself was like an octagonal shape where you could see points. Had a pyramid structure on top that was black, and you can see the shadowing of it as it rotated. But it was rotating very slow. And then it had like these vents on every single corner on the middle part of these the panels anyway. There was like a Vanta black. It was like a dark black that would like absorb light. Very weird.
What do you mean by that? A dark black that would absorb light?
So if you ever familiar with the BMW, they painted Vanta black. It was like a very super dark black. It's not like a reflective material at all.
The matte black?
Yeah, but very, 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 even darker than matte black.
Okay.
Like you could shine a light at it and it won't even illuminate.
Like the Batmobile?
Kind of. Okay. Something like that. But even, it was like very dark. The only way I can describe it was like that Vanta black.
Okay.
And
when you mean absorb light, you're saying if I shine a laser on it, you might not even see the laser. Correct. Or it would be very dull.
Correct.
Okay.
Something like that. So we're watching these vehicles, right? These trucks. Now, the thing I would say on the front of them, because you know Humvees, the military has, they have the IR lights on the front near the headlights that you can drive at nighttime with your knots. So they had the same thing because they had the same kind of slits that had the IR lights. But they had weapon cases in the back of each truck bed. And, you know, you could store like a couple hundred weapons, maybe 100 weapons, maybe a platoon, a company-size element. And it was the same Pelican casings that we would use to store stuff when they were transloading, you know. So very big cases on 2 of them in each truck bed. And then they had a shipping container thing. I mean, it looked like a shipping container, but smaller and half the size. And the thing that was different about this is I had a cylinder on the front of it that was towards the truck. It was like parallel to the ground, just a cylinder right on the top of this thing. And for years I thought, okay, you know, like, there's got to be oxygen supply or like a vacuum sealing thing that you would, you know, because obviously I'm thinking it's drugs. I was like, okay, so this is a very advanced way to do that, just years of thinking of this. And come to find out, when I gave my speech in D.C. on that Saturday for the Disclosure Project with Dr. Greer, he's got a lot of people coming out of the woodwork, by the way. And this gentleman, I'm not going to give any detail. I know a little bit about him, but he works in some of these projects that are some very controversial facilities. He's aware of what was going on. After I gave my presentation of this, he confirmed, he says, no, he's like, I don't want to leave Michael hanging out there, but I was not expecting to come and talk to you about this. And he went explaining what the operations do, why they do it, and what they were using them for. And he says, there's not drugs that they're putting in these shipping containers. He says it's humans.
Human trafficking.
Yes. His own words. And, he, you know, of course. And he also wants to come forward, at least with him and 30 other people that are involved with that part of the work. But it was very disheartening to actually get that information relayed to me, because here I'm thinking for years it's drugs and it's a much sinister thing. But it makes sense because they use natural disasters that people are going to be missing anyway.
Yep.
Scoop up people.
I mean, I've been covering human trafficking this year.
Right.
And that's, you know, a lot of the human trafficking comes from third world countries in distress. You're in a third world area.
Yep.
In distress. Right after an earthquake would be, I mean, it's prime.
Yeah.
Prime time to do a human trafficking operation.
Right.
How big were the containers?
I would say probably 8 feet and 10 feet. 8 feet tall, 10 feet within.
So like maybe half a Connex box?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
And they were kind of like on the trailer that was underneath was kind of like a regular Humvee trailer that you would see kind of pull stuff, something like that.
How were they being lifted into the craft?
So they were driving onto this platform that was angled, so it would hit, and it just raise up, and they were just driving on this ramp.
Oh, the
but
truck
the whole
would go
thing,
up?
yeah, but the whole thing was a ramp.
Okay.
Like a circular ramp. And I mean, obviously I can't see what's on the other side of it, but I'm assuming because it's a circular pattern that it's going to be the same on the other side. Because they would drive onto this platform, and at that point I saw all the doors open, 4 guys would come out, and then I'd go back to what we're facing here with these guys searching our stuff, asking us questions, taking our IDs, trying to intimidate the crap out of us. And so I can see the guys come out of the truck. And that was making me think too, like, at a tactical advantage, we didn't have that. There's only 6 of us, basically trained infantry Marines. And there's these guys here that are, you know, doing this operation and very skilled, very methodical, very calculated, very precise. And if there's 8 of them, and then all of a sudden every single truck has 4 of these guys, I know that it's not just these guys that are running the perimeter. They could have been 40 or 30 or 40 people.
Yeah.
Could have been a platoon-size element. And the fact that we have no concealment, we barely have any concealment, because if we were to run and bank off the sides here to go to our flanks, they could just engage us. There's nothing to hide behind.
Yeah.
Vegetation ain't going to stop bullets, you know. But so there's a lot of questions I have too, because it's, you know, obviously if we would have engaged them, then the whole rest of the force behind us would know about it because they'd have heard the commotion.
Yep. How many containers do you estimate were put into the craft? 4,
because I saw 4 trucks.
4 containers.
Yeah. And there could have been more, but at that point where we saw, we could have, you know, because we stumbled onto this thing. We ruined their operation, so to speak, because we weren't allowed to see that.
We had a knock who was there, who had been involved in an operation after that. and those for transporting children and women and certain men who had certain capabilities that would be used in experimental projects here and in other countries. It's a monstrous program. But there's a CIA black site 160 not far from Nashville that was involved in some of these operations, mostly drugs and drug running, but also trafficking.
So it's a human trafficking operation. It's part of Stargate.
Yeah, but you have to understand what it's for. It's not for, shits and giggles, excuse me. It's rather, I have to say, some of these projects, they're very disturbing. And I don't know how much people want to hear this, but
they want to hear it.
It will keep you awake at night. If you have children like I do. But they're used in very specific operations, and they're selected for certain capabilities, particularly psi capabilities. Okay. And those are used in projects that these illegal projects are running for the purpose of communication.
So what's coming to my mind right now is remote viewing.
Yes.
Is that involved in this?
But in a very high-tech way, technologically. Most of the subjects die as a consequence of what they're made to do. But they have certain aptitudes and abilities for which they are screened, and then they are abducted and taken. Now, keep in mind, this is also, there are a lot of operations that are related to this. Recently there was a whistleblower came out talking about the aliens murdering humans, and he was referring to a case that I know for a fact were our operations.
Let's talk about the craft.
Okay.
How big was it?
300 feet is what I'm estimating, about a football field. And the reason why I say this is because we flew on CH-53 Super Stallions. I'm sure you're familiar with those, your time as a SEAL. They're roughly 100 feet, all right? So from nose to tail, if you lined up three of them, it'd fit three of them under this craft. Because I can see, especially the operation behind us, you kind of see them off in the distance, so you try to gauge, as a Marine, you're always trying to judge distance, you know what I mean? Because if you're having to engage, but lo and behold, we end up having a surprise right here happen with these guys. But that's how I know it was around 300 feet.
Okay. And it was circular.
Circular. It's like an octagon because it had like corners on it. That was like an octagon shape, but still circular.
Could you see, was it one smooth piece of metal?
No.
Was it panels?
Panels.
Or were there windows?
So
were there
There
openings?
were not windows. Nothing I could see like that. It just had that Vanta black vent-looking things on each corner is all I saw with that. And it had like an octagonal scale pattern that went through it. It honestly reminded me kind of like a design for an F-22 Raptor.
Okay.
I like the top of it kind of looks like that.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of reminded me of because it would transition those colors. So I suspect, I've had people I've talked to about this to say, well, Lockheed Martin has reverse engineer stuff that's circular. Raytheon, they have triangular craft. And they said it might have been Lockheed because Lockheed also made the F-22.
Interesting.
Similar design concept. Now that I think about it, right, because at this time you're not really thinking about it. You're like, I'm more concerned with these guys and who the hell they are. So after we witnessed the last truck going on there, and we're still dealing with that. I got searched already, of course, and I'm just paying attention to what's going on. I'm making sure my guys are good, too. And all of a sudden, the trucks, we never saw them again. They were not on that platform. There was, like, boxes and stuff that were on that platform. And so I'm assuming they either drove off on the other side or disappeared or where they went. I don't know. But all of a sudden, we noticed that this platform raises off the ground by itself. It doesn't make any noise, by the way. It doesn't disturb anything.
Before it started gaining elevation,
yeah.
How high off the ground was this?
The actual craft?
Yes.
I would say probably 20 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, good distance. And the platform rose up, but I would say like the platform was up several feet, right? Probably maybe 5-6 feet, because it was, from the distance, probably about half an inch.
I mean, I'm just envisioning the way you're describing this, I'm envisioning an octagon.
Yep.
Rotating clockwise with a drop ramp similar to maybe something you would see on the back of a C-130, C-17, but circular.
But circular and separate. There's no cables, there's no...
Okay.
Yeah.
Was the ramp attached to the craft?
No.
So there was just an opening.
There was just an opening. Like the bottom part of the craft, I was what I'm assuming, because that's where I saw it lift up and go into. It was like the bottom part. It was like the floor itself was like the platform, and they were just rolled up, right? But at the same time, the top part leveled a little bit and went down to meet with this. And as that happened, you start to see it rise up past the tree line. And it's not like a super fast and just rapid. It's just like kind of slow. As that's going on, the rotation has not changed. The audible hum has not changed. But
it's not like somebody hit the gas and you hear a different.
Yeah, it's nothing like
noise.
that.
It's
no,
just
constant.
Okay.
Each point on that octagonal shape started to illuminate colors. Like, and it was just one color per point. It was red, it was green, it was yellow, and it was blue. It was the only colors I saw, and it was rotating, right? As soon as it got to the top of the tree line, like cleared the trees, this thing shot off to the left. And to the left was the ocean, by the way. This was going west.
How far to the left was the ocean?
Probably a good 1.5 miles, maybe.
That's it?
Yeah.
So you're right on the coastline. Yeah. Okay.
Probably, I would say, it could be 1.5 miles to 3 miles, I'd estimate, because I mean, that's just estimation. I don't really know, because it took us a little bit when we landed into the near Padang City, because we landed at the airstrip, and then we took like a several-minute flight going from southwest to like northeast part, roughly. So I'd say probably a couple miles to kind of estimate. And like I said, it didn't change pitches of noise or anything, and it just completely shot off. I mean, it's just like a blur that went left. Didn't make a sonic boom like you'd see a fighter jet when you see the pressure that, the way that happens. It didn't disturb any of the trees like what rotor wash would do on a helo or a jet flying the map of the earth and leaving exhaust and blowing the, you kind of see Top Gun movies when it cranks up on that. Nothing. There were even coconuts that you could visibly see on these trees. None of them were disturbed.
No shit.
Yeah. And me, I like aircraft. That was my thing. I wanted to be a pilot, but that didn't happen. I wanted to fly the Harrier. And I know about aircraft. I know everything that we've got. I know everything about them. From a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. But obviously then being infantry was the next best thing. So it wasn't something I've never seen before, something I know that we didn't have, at least in the conventional wise, on top of the military force that was there.
So let's say you have something that would fit on a little table this big, and it's a generator, and it's pulling energy out of what's called the quantum vacuum, or zero-point energy field, which was proven to exist back in the 50s. Now, physicists have described this energy field. If you had a coffee mug, the amount of space in that coffee mug has enough potential power to boil off all the oceans of the world, quote unquote. It's what Tesla called, not the fake car company, actually Nikola Tesla. I call it fake Tesla cars because if they're plugged into the grid, they're not real Teslas. We'll get into this. But that energy field is everywhere, and you can tap into it. And when you tap into it, you're tapping into this energy field that can be converted to electricity or thrust.
So is the energy field, is it everything in between objects? Is that?
It's not just between, it's within. So if you let's take the chair you're sitting in, or I'm in. It's occupying a volume of space. Mm-hmm. When you get past the molecular to the atomic level of this, and then subatomic, the quarks, you get this into this pluripotent, it's like the foam at the surface of the deep ocean.
Okay.
That all of matter is fluxing in and out of. The early Lockheed Skunk Works man-made UFOs were called flux liners.
Flux liners.
Yep. Because they were pulling energy from this quantum vacuum flux field. Very advanced physics. I mean, we understand it very well. I want to put your audience to sleep going into the arcana of the physics of it. But the point I'm making is that was mastered decades ago.
This technology's been around for decades.
Well, about 100 years that there has been empirical evidence of this energy field. Nikola Tesla called it the infinite energy field. There were others who discovered it all the way back to the late 1800s. Now, they didn't they didn't have the physics down of what was happening, but in terms of just observing the phenomenon empirically, here you set up a high voltage system, suddenly more energy is coming out than you're putting in. Those are called over unity systems or free energy, because once you get it tapped, it's just flowing, right? And so that means that every home, business, car, manufacturing, village in Africa would be able to have a device that would not be very expensive, frankly, to mass manufacture, that would generate all the energy they need for all the needs that we have for a modern civilization. And this would be wonderful. There's no pollution, there's no radiation. And once you have the system, there's no cost. There's no refueling. The bad news is that if you're an oligarch, a global oligarch, controlling the macroeconomic system, big oil, big global systems, and let me translate for those of you who've been in the Middle East, our vital national security interests translates to one word, O-I-L, oil, energy. So the problem is, if that technology were to be disclosed, it's a quadrillion dollars. It's $1,000 trillion or more in proven assets, oil, gas, coal, public utilities that are obsolete. It's like it's like a royal typewriter or a horse and buggy. That's what they're protecting.
So as that took off, we're all of a sudden ordered to face that slope that we came down. And like I said, it's not very high up. I mean, it's high enough to obscure everything to kind of go down in the valley. And so as we turn around, I'm like, fuck, they're going to do it. I think they were just going to, fucking rip us right there.
Yeah.
And
or they're going to kill you.
Yeah. Does that mean it's like...
Before we get to that...
Yeah.
When you saw this thing take off, I mean, do you have any estimation of speed? Have you seen anything? I mean, was it faster than anything you've seen before?
Yeah.
Was it a normal speed?
No, it was faster. It was the fastest thing I've ever seen. It was, I would say, probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles an hour. I mean, it was instantaneous. It was just like it left a blur.
Okay.
Like a jet screaming by going as fast as it possibly could, you can still make the shape of it and still lock your eyes onto it as it's going. There's no way in hell you could lock your eyes onto this thing as it's moving. That's how fast it was.
Okay.
And eyesight, something moving, your eyes are naturally going to pick up that motion. And this didn't do that. I mean, it was just like, it just left a very fast blur. And like I said, I've never seen anything like that. The way that it moved, the way that it didn't make any sound, completely, didn't change pitch of the hum or anything like that.
Did it go at an upward angle? Was it a straight line?
It just looked like a straight line from what I could see. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it went up in the sky or anything. It was just like went over the trees and was gone.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, knowing aircraft and things like that, it just wasn't something normal. Something completely faster, something doesn't make any sound. I mean, radar signature, I have no idea. But there's theories that maybe the design of it could not reflect radar signals. I mean, I don't know how that go. I'm not, I don't work in that project or anything like that, but it's just something that's very odd to see. Very, very alarming.
Did the lights stay on as it took off?
Yep. But you couldn't even see the blurs of lights even. It was just this black blur that just left.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, it was creepy. It was fucking creepy to see.
Yeah.
And, of course, we're like dumbfounded because you've never seen anything like this. And this is like some Hollywood shit, Make the ships from Independence Day look like a joke, with how fast this thing was. So it was very, very, very weird to see that. And like I said, as we were ordered to turn towards the slope that we came down, and that's when I thought it was it. I thought they were going to smoke us, and they kept saying that, we can kill you right now. They're as this is going on, they're talking shit. They're looking at us. They're taking pictures. They're doing, everything that they're trying to do to clear us. So as we turn this, and all of a sudden, I see a sling pass over my head. I'm like, oh, fuck, they're going to strangle me. But that wasn't the case. They actually tightened it so well that when they placed it, and, it's crossbody, and obviously the buttstock of the rifle is up on the right shoulder, and the muzzle's kind of more towards your left. And they tightened the sling so well that if you try to get it off, it's going to struggle, right? And they started putting the magazines in, and they put all 6 of them in our vest, but they put it in a way that wasn't tactile. They put them like right side up where you can see the brass, right? Because brass to the grass is usually what we always train our Marines to do. So you just take it out, pop it in, boom, right? And they did in the case it'd be tactical. It wouldn't be a tactical advantage to do that. So by the time you get your weapon off, try to put a magazine in and charge it, you're already gonna get smoked.
Yeah.
So
you were standing up when they did this?
Yes. Yep. And when I saw that sling come over, I mean, I was like, fuck, I thought they were going to strangle me.
Were they talking to you as they were doing this?
Yes. That's when they were saying they're going to, smoke us, they're going to kill us, they could shoot us, leave us here to die, stuff like that.
Why do you think they were doing? I mean, it sounds like they were taunting almost.
They were. And I think, my personal opinion is I think they really wanted to kill us. But if they made because they didn't have suppressors, they had M4A4s, they had like the high-speed setup, they had actual ACOGs. They had the honeycombs on them. They had the PEC-16s, which is a step up from what we had. They had steel magazines. Their weapons were like they were brand new.
Do they have nods?
No. They had ball caps, though.
Ball caps?
Yep. They had no insignias, nothing that would signify what their rank was, nothing that would signify what branch if they were. There's nothing to identify. And, law enforcement agencies will typically try to be uniform with all black, so you can't really identify who they are specifically. And it's like how these guys were doing the same thing. Because I know in AOs, at least where you have friendlies, you want to identify who's what, because that's how you're going to coordinate between everybody, if who's friendly and who's not. So if you're having to do anything like airstrikes, close air support, CASEVACs, you know what to say and what they look like. Paint the picture for what you're getting into to provide other people that intel. And these guys were just uniform black, ball caps, and it's just, it's very obvious that these guys didn't want to be identified, but they had American dialects, they had American lingo, similar to what Marines would use, or at least military. So that's why my suspicion is I think that these guys at one point were uniform military, and maybe they got swept into this program, whatever it is.
Could you see their faces?
I did. Three of the guys had facial hair, right? Kind of stubble. Some of them kind of, not really long beards, but like an operator look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The rest of the guys didn't. Some of them had kind of blonde hair, at least that you can see from right here. Some of them had like black hair, and then just regular white complexion. Some of them had blue eyes, some of them had brown eyes, and I think one guy that I saw had, he was the one that was mainly focused in on us as we were getting searched. And you can see he had kind of like grayish blue eyes. Whatever story they would have spun up to say that, maybe one Marine got PTSD or something, decided to kill his own squad and then kill himself. I mean, whatever they would have spun it to be. If these guys have this kind of technology and these resources, they can do anything.
Yeah.
They're above the law, clearly. So as they gave us our stuff back and we're going up this slope, they're still talking shit. They're still saying, we could kill you. Don't fucking look back or we're going to smoke you. So as soon as we went over the top and all of a sudden we didn't, they weren't pursuing us, and we fucking hightailed it. We ran down this fucking slope, trying not to trip over shit, go to the LZ, and there were still helicopters flying. They were flying relatively low with the shipments that they had that were attached, and then they were landing, dropping the stuff off, and then they were taking off, right? And they were just coming and going back and forth. There was a gunnery sergeant there that was not in my unit. I think he was attached to the ship. It might have been kind of like their logistical support unit or whatever it is, because I know each ship has logistical support for Marines, right, that are on the ship, either active security, whatever it is. There was a gunnery sergeant there, and he was like fucking pissed because we showed back up and we weren't supposed to. And then we had our weapons, so what were we conditioned for? We tried to play dumb, so obviously we kind of like set up a perimeter and then we adjusted ourselves. Some of my guys, they'd help us get our stuff unslung and then we'd load it back up and act like everything was normal, but I can tell everybody's faces were like, what the fuck? Very, very concerning stuff. And here's the thing, though. If stuff is still going on to this day, which I'm sure it is, because if they're, come to find out, and I know you probably know this, human trafficking is the biggest revenue generator for these guys, for these organizations. Second's drugs, third is weapons. So if they're hitting all three, and obviously they're not going to want to give up their operations being known for that because it's illegal. It's not going to sit very well in the public eye. A lot of people have children. I personally don't have kids, but I know you as a dad would not fucking stand for that kind of shit. Yeah. Because then you have the thought in your head that it's going to be my kids are going to end up like this. That potentially could. And it's not a very comfortable thing people realize. And having them known to see this happen, it sucks. And this is kind of more why I'm pressing towards getting the resolution done with this, to make the government aware of it, because if that's going on, it's got to be stopped. That's some evil nature right there. And I can't believe that there are actually people participating in this. And if they know about it, fucking shame on them.
Against a new tomorrow, so I guess I'll just believe it. Tomorrow never knows. I said night, I'm living in the forest of a dream. I know the night is not as it would seem. I must believe in something, so I'll make myself believe it. This night will never go.
Sorry.